Matt, are you kind of excited about the NFL draft coming up? Because I know that this is not the most intriguing quarterback class, but it's going to be good that we're going to start getting back into football slowly but surely.
Slowly but steadily, we're getting back into football, and I'm all in for it. Also, I like the fact that, Laura, we're in the same color shirt.
I know. I mean, we got to talk about the Lakers' disappointing game one loss and what it means, what kind of adjustments they're going to have to make in game two against a really good T-Wolves team. I'm like, I didn't think Minnesota heading into this playoffs, they were going to be a playing team, but the way they finished out the season was strong and very convincing. But we'll get to that in a little bit. But
yeah,
the 2025 NFL draft is at Lambeau Field. I mean, I know that there'll be a lot of Lambeau leaps there for fans that want to do that when it comes to these conventions and all that.
Oh, the draft is always a spectacle. It really is, because you get to see fans attend, you get to see the media, you get to see, and ultimately I think the most fulfilling part of it is you get to see college athletes get a chance to live their dream. And that's the most fulfilling thing about the draft.
Well, the Tennessee Titans are on the clock. So I think you and I know where we're going with this. So who I have Tennessee drafted with the first pick in the 2025 NFL draft. The Tennessee Titans are going to select Cam Ward, quarterback from Miami. Like I said, Will Levis is not their answer, but Cam Ward, who has drawn comparisons to Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix, more Jaden Daniels. But
yeah,
the Tennessee Titans are going to – this is like Joe Burrow 2.0, and Cam Ward is going to be the guy that Brian Callahan is going to start a new era with.
Listen, we mentioned before how bad the draft class at quarterback really is, but Cam Ward's one of the few standouts that actually make sense for Tennessee. And I agree with you on this pick. Like, this was a no-doubter because, Tennessee needs to start over a QB. They got nothing going on offense. And when the quarterback position doesn't function, the whole offense doesn't function. And Tennessee was a disaster last year. They need to pick me up in the worst way.
This is probably going to help guys like Tony Pollard, Treylon Burks, and get them to be better, assuming Cam Ward is there.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, you and I both have Cam Ward going to Tennessee, but Cleveland, I think this is where the toss-up really happens.
Yes.
So, I think Deshaun Watson is basically done because, this is another season-ending injury for Deshaun Watson, knowing that this was a contract that Cleveland would want to forget. So I have the Cleveland Browns selecting quarterback Shedeur Sanders from Colorado.
You know what? It's funny. I actually have the Browns taking his teammate, Travis Hunter, wide receiver out of Colorado. Now, this was really hard to predict because the Browns had a lot of options that they could have gone. They could have drafted Abdul Carter to pair him with Myles Garrett. They could have gotten another quarterback to replace Deshaun Watson, especially because the Browns quarterback room outside of Deshaun Watson is bad. You're talking Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett's not really much of an insurance policy. So I understand Travis Shedeur Sanders going to Cleveland. I think it makes a lot of sense. I didn't think about that before I made my mock draft, but I guess Travis Hunter would be a good option.
Well, speaking of Travis Hunter, here's who I have him going to. With the third pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Travis Hunter, wide receiver from Colorado. He goes to the Big Apple. I mean, he could potentially play corner for the Giants, but he's also going to be catching some passes from Russell Wilson.
I wish I had thought my mock draft over again. I would love Travis Hunter. Like, if we get Travis Hunter, I would be absolutely satisfied with that because I like the quarterback room that the Giants have. I like Russell Wilson and I like Jameis Winston and even Tommy DeVito. And you can always take a quarterback in the second round. They're not as talented QBs in the second round, but at the same time, you can at least have a good quarterback throwing the ball than last year. I think you're going to get better quarterback production this year than last year. And I think Travis Hunter, you pair him with Malik Neighbors, that's a nasty tandem right there.
And who do you have your Giants selecting?
Well, I kind of wish I went with your route, but I have the Giants taking Abdul Carter, edge rusher out of Penn State, and the reason why is because the Giants' defensive pass rush. You have Kayvon Thibodeau over there, and I think Dexter Lawrence is still there as well. I think the Giants need to have a really good pass rush because one of the things that made the Giants Super Bowl winners in the past was because they had really good pass rush. And I think Abdul Carter is the best defensive prospect in this draft, no question about it. And I think the Giants can feast on defensive players and heavily utilize them the proper way. So I have the Giants taking Abdul Carter. Although I would have loved Travis Hunter.
Well, you and I are different here, but with the 4th pick of the 2025 NFL draft, the New England Patriots. I mean, I have had a little bit of a tough time deciding on which route I want to go with, because we need offense. We need to bolster our defensive front. But I think with Mike Vrabel being a defensive guy, we can always take a running back or receiver in the later rounds. So with that being said, I have the New England Patriots selecting Abdul Carter, a edge rusher from Penn State. Why I want this pick to happen is because our pass rush since Matthew Judon got traded kind of regressed, and I want the defensive front to get more aggressive, more intense, get to opposing quarterbacks like Josh Allen and Tua Tagovailoa easily. Get that going again, because we're not going to let Allen or Tua throw 30 times a game for touchdowns and all that. And plus, with the Jets not getting Aaron Rodgers, we're going to need to increase our intensity on getting to Justin Fields. So this is why I feel like Abdul Carter is going to be a good pick for Mike Vrabel and the New England Patriots.
So, again, we're different here. I already had Abdul Carter going to the previous pick in New York. This one I don't know how you're going to feel about this. With the 4th overall pick, I have the New England Patriots selecting Will Campbell, offensive tackle out of LSU. One of the reasons why I went this route is because the Patriots' offensive line is not exactly where it should be. I mean, they've had a couple misses with offensive line prospects in previous years. I think with the new regime, I think you go offensive line again, and Will Campbell is one of the strongest and athletic offensive tackles this class has to offer.
Yeah, if you look at Will Campbell, when you said him, he's at LSU. He's a junior. I mean, if we get him, I'm like, I want to see how tall and lengthy he is, because I feel like that I didn't consider offensive line being another huge need for us, because I feel like that if we need to get an offensive lineman to protect Drake May better, which I think we need to, but why I wanted Abdul Carter is because I think we need to add more depth. We need to not be thin at defense at defensive at edge rushing.
Now, like I said, I agree with you on the pass rush aspect of it. I think ever since Matthew Judon left, you've been trying to fill that void, but the Patriots' defensive front is non-existent, so I understand that pick a lot. But if I had Abdul Carter going to the Giants, I would have had Abdul Carter go to New England. But I felt like offensive line was also a big need for New England.
It is. Like, the route I'm taking with New England is, I think with Mike Vrabel here, defense first, defensive line first, or offensive line first.
Yeah, if you win up front, you're going to win football games.
Oh yeah, I mean, here is who the 5th pick is the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, we're going to Duval now, because with the 5th pick in the 2025 NFL draft, I got the Jacksonville Jaguars selecting Mason Graham, a defensive tackle from Michigan. I think that this pick makes a lot of sense because Jacksonville is not strong enough inside, and they're going to need to bolster that side of the defense to get to quarterbacks again, like they did in 2018.
I agree with that pick a lot. I have the same pick as you. Mason Graham brings a lot. The Jaguars defense has been very lackluster over the last few seasons, and they need to start it back up somehow. And I think Mason Graham is going to be a good catalyst to kind of get the pass rush going again.
Yes, because Jacksonville's defense the last couple years hasn't been good. Offensively, they've been good if Trevor Lawrence is healthy.
Yes, absolutely. So I think offense was not really a primary problem. I think coaching offensively was a problem, and that's why they made the change head coach. But again, defense is also a major concern.
Oh, yeah. It is a major concern for the Jaguars, and I'm sure that they'll find Liam Cohen, I think, is going to turn around the offensive play calling that he's going to do in Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas. I think he's going to really utilize those guys. And defensively, Mason Graham is a good start.
Yes, absolutely. You got to start somewhere. I know they drafted Trevon Walker a couple years ago at the number 1 overall pick, but that pick hasn't really panned out too well, has it?
Well, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders are looking to bolster their offense under the Pete Carroll regime, and Geno Smith might not start for long. So, with the 6th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, I have the Las Vegas Raiders selecting Shedeur Sanders. And I'm thinking that this pick happens now because I kind of think that Shedeur Sanders may challenge Geno Smith for that starting job.
So I actually have the Vegas Raiders going with an offensive player, but in a different route. So the Raiders' running game was non-existent last year. I had the Las Vegas Raiders taking the best running back off the board, Ashton Jeanty, running back out of Boise State.
Whoa, man. Ashton Jeanty to Vegas? I mean, this brings back Josh Jacobs again. I mean, Josh Jacobs was the reason why the Raiders running game was successful. And now you get Ashton Jeanty to be that primary back for the Raiders and a guy that is going to keep moving those chains.
But yeah, if you look at the Raiders' running game last year, it was non-existent. They need a running game in the worst way. And Ashton Jeanty is like Marshawn Lynch 2.0. He's like a beast mode guy. You bounce off him when you try to tackle him. This guy is like really, really good. So I like Ashton Jeanty being a Raider.
That could happen, but why I want Shedeur Sanders to be Raiders? Because Geno Smith's probably not going to be the starter for long, but I have a feeling that when Shedeur Sanders is going to come in and challenge Geno Smith for the starting job in training camp, and I think that Pete Carroll would like to have a young quarterback learn from a quarterback that knows his offense and his philosophy and camaraderie.
Yes.
With why I went with Shedeur Sanders.
Understandable.
Well, the 7th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the New York Jets I think they need pretty much everything, but I have them going with an offensive tackle, and that is going to be Armand Mibu from Missouri.
Well, I have the same pick as you, believe it or not. This is another time that we agree. Armand Membu with the Jets, it just makes a lot of sense. The Jets' offensive line has not been good. You're going to have a running quarterback under center now with Justin Fields. You figure that they're going to need a lot of protection up front and a lot of operation in the run game and the pass game. Breece Hall needs bigger holes, and I feel like Armand Membu on the left or right side of the line, I think that's absolutely a must-need.
That is a must-need for the New York Jets here. I mean, Aaron Glenn is going to get a guy that is big, that is physical, and that is going to open up lanes for Breece Hall. That is what the Jets are going to need to go that route.
Absolutely.
The Carolina Panthers are on the clock next for us. For me, it's either an edge rusher or an offensive lineman for the Carolina Panthers. So, with the 8th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, I have the Carolina Panthers selecting Will Campbell from LSU because I want my boy Bryce Young to get the protection he needs.
Now, I'm going with a different route. I actually had the Panthers selecting Jalen Walker, edge rusher out of Georgia. And the reason why is because you saw Bryce Young flourish towards the tail end of last year. It seemed like he has confidence back. The Panthers have a couple good offensive pieces all around him already. I think the line's okay. So if I were the Panthers, I would go with a defense because the defense for the Panthers was not good at all last year. So you need at least a pass rusher to start and kickstart something. And I think Jalen Walker's the way to go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Jalen Walker to Carolina, he basically bolsters their defensive front, and he's also a good start to this young team that they're assembling.
Absolutely.
The New Orleans Saints are going to need everything. I mean, they need basically a new quarterback. They also need edge rushing too, but I kind of agree with this pick here, and I think I'm going to go with it because I think Derek Carr's shoulder injury is basically career-ending. With the 9th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Jackson Dart, a quarterback from Ole Miss. Really, I like this pick because this gives Kellen Moore his own quarterback, and I'm kind of thinking that Derek Carr is probably not going to play anymore.
It's a good. That's a really solid pick. I have the Saints going quarterback too because they need a quarterback under center. I have the New Orleans Saints taking the QB, but this is where Shedeur Sanders falls for me. I think that Shedeur Sanders. I know a lot of people like Jackson Dart. I have him going somewhere else in the first round, but I think that Shedeur Sanders. You go with the best prospect available at that point, and I think that the New Orleans Saints, like I said, they need a QB. I think Shedeur Sanders is their guy.
Yeah, I mean, either him or I mean, if Shedeur Sanders falls for you to the Saints, he's probably going to be their starting quarterback right away.
I would think so.
Because I'm thinking Cam Ward is for sure locked in to start week 1 because I don't think Tennessee has anybody to start.
Nope.
And then Cleveland, their situation. I had Shedeur Sanders going to Cleveland, and I think he will start He'll start over Deshaun Watson.
And Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco.
Yeah, that's not a good quarterback room. But for the Chicago Bears, the Ben Johnson regime begins now. I have the Chicago Bears selecting Jalen Walker, an edge rusher from Georgia. I'm like, Ben Johnson has the offensive pieces he needs. I think for the Bears to continue to bring back this old school monsters of the midway defense starts with Jalen Walker.
I like that. The Bears love having a good defense. I know the Bears have Caleb Williams, and I know they already have Cole Kmet, but you can always add depth to your offense. And with the 10th overall pick, I have the Chicago Bears selecting Tyler Warren, tight end out of Penn State.
And the reason why, man, he falls to them.
And the reason why is because, I mean, you can always have a good 2 tight end set on the Bears offense. Like I said, I know Cole Kmet exists, and I know he's there, but I like having a multi-dimensional tight end option set offensively that the Bears can use.
Oh, yes. I mean, you get a 2 tight end set that Ben Johnson wants to use. I mean, if he gets Tyler Warren, you talk about the Chicago Bears offense that Ben Johnson is picturing.
Yes.
So basically Ben Johnson gets his offense complete.
Yep.
And then we go to the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, they need, with this pick, I think they need to complete their needs of a defensive back. So with the 11th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers will select Will Johnson, a defensive back from Michigan.
Solid. I have the Niners going defense as well, but not in the secondary, in a different part. I have them going defensive front. I have them selecting Walter Nolan, defensive lineman out of Ole Miss. You can never have the Niners pass rush. I know they have one of the Bosa brothers, but I have Nick Bosa. But the Niners defensive front, outside of Nick Bosa, and even Nick Bosa to an extent, is very injury plagued. They need some youth up front that can be stable and can actually stay healthy. And I think Walter Nolan's a good way to start.
Where is he from again?
Ole Miss.
Oh boy, the Niners getting physical in that front, because I felt like that the Niners secondary hasn't been sharp. It wasn't sharp last year.
Nope.
Now we go to the Dallas Cowboys selection. I mean, they need to basically shore up their offense, and with the 12th pick in the 2025 draft, I have the Dallas Cowboys selecting Ashawn Genty, a running back from Boise State. I have him going there because the Dallas Cowboys had no running game last year, and basically they're going to need somebody to resurrect Dak Prescott and make Brian Schottenheimer a genius.
So I have them going. I initially had them going receiver, but now that you mentioned that they need a running back, I think I'm gonna make a pick that I had them going in round 2 and have them going in round 1. So with the 12th overall pick, the Dallas Cowboys select running back Travion Henderson out of Ohio State. This is a guy that can go 0 to 6. This is a guy that can go 0 to 60 in less than 4 seconds. This is a guy that has breakneck speed and a guy that the Dallas Cowboys need. Now, offensive line is going to be a big contributing factor to that running game, but come on, Rico Dowdle was not a factor at all last year.
We both have running back for the Dallas Cowboys because their running game last year was non-existent, and
Zero run game.
Basically, when they handed the ball off to Rico Dowdle, he was tackled behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, it was a pitiful, pitiful run game. They missed Tony Pollard for sure.
Well, the Miami Dolphins are picking at 13 here with the 13th pick of the 2025 NFL Draft. I have the Miami Dolphins selecting Matthew Golden, a wide receiver from Texas. You get another guy along with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill with my guy Tua.
All right. I have them going offensively, but I'm not going receiver because I got 2 really good ones. The number one problem the Miami Dolphins have had over the last few years is protecting Tua. And they need help up front. They've needed help up front for the last couple of years. And I have them going Josh Simmons, offensive tackle out of Ohio State. Again, you need
How
to
tall is Josh Simmons? Is he really tall that could protect Tua on the right side or the left side? Because he throws left-handed too.
That's a good point. So Josh Simmons, I'm looking at him right now. He is exactly 6'5", 310 pounds.
Man, 6'5", that's probably good. That's going to help the run game with Mostert and Achane to have a bounce-back season. And why I went with receivers, because I feel like that having lots of playmakers around my guy Tua is going to help him.
Yeah, but you need to have him upright, and you need to have him healthy. And the offensive line has been the problem. That's why he hasn't stayed healthy.
Concussions. Well, the Indianapolis Colts are on the clock at 14 for us, and with the 14th pick in the draft, the Indianapolis Colts select Jahdae Barron, a defensive back from Texas. You know what? This is going to be a pick. I think that's going to be a steal because he's a guy that I think is going to fit the Colts secondary needs.
So the Colts have needs in the secondary, but their tight end position was non-existent last year. And with the 14th pick in the NFL draft and my mock draft, I'm going with the Indianapolis Colts selecting Colston Loveland, tight end out of Michigan. Again, a position that was non-existent, ill and void. They needed a tight end in the worst way. They did not have a tight end last year. Whether it was Anthony Richardson or whether it was Joe Flacco, it didn't matter. The Colts did not have any pass catchers.
Yeah, they need more. A tight end is definitely something I won't be shocked with, but the Atlanta Falcons need defense the worst way possible. And I know that we're going to see Michael Penix this year. I think he's going to be their starter.
Yes.
Come week 1 now. Because I can say that in my Madden League now, since since Michael Penix Jr. sat behind Kirk Cousins, and I think it's now his time. So,
Yep.
But do they help him out with weapons, or do the Falcons go defense? I think they're going to go defense here, and they select Jihad Campbell, a linebacker from my school, University of Alabama.
That's right. That's right. Not so fast. I know Lee Corso is retiring, so I had to pull Lee Corso out there for a second. They got Matthew Judon. They need a good pass rush. I know linebacking core is a big must need for the Atlanta Falcons, but still, I have them going defense anyway. I have them selecting James Pierce Jr., edge rusher out of Tennessee.
And you think that pick makes sense for them because the Atlanta Falcons are going to need to get more faster, getting to the quarterback, and to compete in a division like this, they're going to need to shore up that defense.
Exactly. And like you said, you pair him with Matthew Judon. I think that's going to help.
And do you still think in this draft that the Falcons will look for offensive help for Michael Penix Jr.?
Yeah, I think like looking like the second or third round, they're going to find some help offensively.
Because if you look at the offense right now, you got Bijan Robinson, who I think is going to have another great season. Drake London, I think, is his number one target. Kyle Pitts, he's going to get plenty of touches too.
No, the Falcons have a lot of weapons around Michael Penix Jr. already. I think if anything, they might go offensive line, or even they might take like a bench receiver in like the 4th or 5th round. But either way, I still have the Falcons going defense first because that is their primary need at this point.
Well, the Arizona Cardinals are now on the clock for us. And with the 16th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, I have the Arizona Cardinals selecting Kelvin Banks Jr., an offensive tackle from Texas. I mean, last year they took Paris Johnson last year, and I kind of think you need a left tackle to still keep Kyler Murray upright.
So Josh Gannon is a defensive-minded coach. The Cardinals defense did improve last year from what it was in 2023. Despite that, the Arizona Cardinals, I think, got to go with a defensive push. Even though their offense was not fantastic last year, I think they still need to go defense. I have them selecting Mykel Williams, edge rusher from Georgia. Again, another Georgia pass rusher going in the first round. This just tells you the depth that the Georgia Bulldogs have on defense. But Arizona, they can always use pass rush.
Is that you went with this pick because knowing that Jonathan Gannon is a defensive coach, you think the Arizona Cardinals improve in that area with Mykel Williams?
Yes.
Because look, you got Budda Baker, that's already the captain of that defense. The Cardinals pass rush isn't that great, but if you look at offensively with Kyler Murray and James Conner and Marvin Harrison Jr., that's still a very good offense there. But
it's a really good offense, yes.
But the Cardinals need more than those guys to be
Absolutely.
good.
They need other people to step up.
Well, the Cincinnati Bengals need to get younger at either pass rushing or finding protection for Joe Burrow. Now that you paid your 2 best receivers with Burrow and Chase and T. Higgins, I mean, Bengals fans can just now rejoice that T. Higgins is still around.
Oh, yeah. I love the fact that T. Higgins is still around. I mean, listen, the Bengals are ready to win now offensively. But there was one primary issue is why they didn't make the playoffs.
It's defense.
Yes.
And with the 17th pick, I have the Cincinnati Bengals selecting Mykel Williams. You had him going to Arizona, but why have him going to Cincinnati is because Trey Hendrickson's not getting any younger. He's gonna be that guy that is gonna be the anchor of that defensive front for the Cincinnati Bengals.
So I have the Bengals going pass rush as well. Initially, I had them going offensive line, but I think they can go offensive line in the 2nd or 3rd round of the draft. I have the Cincinnati Bengals going Kenneth Grant, defensive lineman out of Michigan. Again, pass rush can kickstart a defense, even when your linebacking core and your secondary isn't doing well. Again, up front, winning in the trenches means everything because you control the pace of a game. Cincinnati did not have any defensive presence at all whatsoever. And if they did, I guarantee the Bengals would, number one, be in the playoffs, and two, Joe Burrow would be NFL MVP.
That is something that would help the Bengals out because they lost a lot of heartbreaking games because their defense just did something that costed them the game.
Yes, the defense dropped the ball on many occasions last year, and that's even
why
when Burrow and Chase had good
Bruno's not
performances.
there anymore. And now that they changed defensive coordinators, this is going to help the Bengals change their perspective.
Yeah, and they need new schemes and everything. They really need to change their defensive schemes. That's why they hired the defensive coordinator out of Notre Dame to help solve that problem.
That's a good addition for them, but the Seattle Seahawks are now on the clock for us at 18. I mean, who is going to be their starting quarterback? That is going to be a question that we're going to have to find out. But with the 18th pick in the draft, actually, it's Sam Darnold that is going to be their starter.
Yes.
But I don't know if there's anybody in this draft class this year that's going to help the Seahawks win now. But to give Sam Darnold help, I have the Seattle Seahawks selecting Torah McMillan, a wide receiver from Arizona. Basically, you don't have DK Metcalf anymore. No more Tyler Lockett. I mean, you pair him with Cooper Kupp and MVS and Jackson Smith-Njigba. You talk McMillan, I think, is going to be a guy that is going to help stretch the field.
Well, I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is your new number one. I actually agree with you on this pick. One of the few times we've agreed on a pick so far. Tetra McMillan is one of the better receiver prospects outside of the Ohio State guys. But to me, actually, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think, Tetra McMillan is the first receiver we both have off the board. So this is interesting. So, again, Seattle needs to improve at receiver. No Metcalf, no Lockett. I think you got to start completely fresh. You did get Cooper Kupp. That's great. You have Jackson Smith-Njigba. That's great. But now you need to add on to that and have a trio of receivers. I think Tetra McMillan can add to that.
I think the Seattle Seahawks with this pick, I think that's going to help them offensively. But looking at the division, I think the 49ers bounce back. They're going to try their best to get back to winning the NFC West. The LA Rams getting Devontae Adams to pair with Matthew Stafford. I think that's going to create a challenge for both the Rams and the Niners to get to that division title. And then the Seahawks and Cardinals are basically the two teams that are going to say, hey, who's going to finish? Who's going to be stuck in last? Who's going to be in third?
Exactly.
The Green Bay Packers, I think, are looking to bolster their receiving core. No, my bad. It's
Buccaneers at 19.
Buccaneers at 19. But in this mock draft, Green Bay has that selection because they had the trade. But with the 19th pick in the draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Emeka Egbuka from the reigning national champion Ohio State Buckeyes. Really think this pick makes a lot of sense to me because you got a guy that pairs with you get him to pair with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and Baker Mayfield. That is going to be something down in South Florida.
So I have the Buccaneers going defensive route. And with that 19th pick, I have them selecting Will Johnson, corner out of Michigan. He went off your board earlier. Michigan defensive backs were great last year, even though Michigan had downward spiral this past season. Tampa Bay needs help in the secondary, and I think Will Johnson can provide some sort of assist.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're saying that it helps with this assist here with Will Johnson?
Yes.
Yeah, and you said I had Will Johnson get off the board early.
Yes, you did. You had him going like the top 10 or something like that.
So basically, what you're saying here is that the Tampa Bay who do you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers selecting?
Will Johnson, corner out of Michigan.
Yeah, and I have Tampa Bay going offense here. But the Denver Broncos are looking to, get their running game going again. I really like this pick here for the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos with the 20th pick select O'Marion Hampton from North Carolina, Bill Belichick's school. I mean, I think that Sean Payton has a guy that is going to help move the chains for Bo Nix.
Okay, so I have the Denver Broncos selecting O'Marion Hampton as well. Denver running game was non-existent. And other than Bo Nix, I think, was their leading rusher last year. That just tells you everything you need to know about how bad the Denver Bronco running backs were. So I think they need a running back in the worst way. I think O'Marion Hampton is going to be the guy carrying the load for them.
Yeah, I mean, the Denver Broncos really need a running game, that's for sure. And I think Hampton will be a guy that's going to help, move the chains, a guy that is going to help Bo Nix out a lot. And I think that Sean Payton has his next Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
Well, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they need basically everything. Are they going to get a quarterback? But you know what? I like this pick for them at 21. I have them going with Derek Harmon, a defensive tackle from Oregon, a guy that is going to help with the interior. Had to get younger with losing guys such as Larry Ojobi and Cam Hayward. You get a guy that is going to help rebuild this defensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
So Pittsburgh is a really good defensive team. They've been really good defensively for a long time. But I look at the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback room, and there's only one name on there, and that's Mason Rudolph. You need a quarterback room, not a single guy being your single caller. So I have the Pittsburgh Steelers selecting Jackson Dart, quarterback out of Ole Miss.
Oh, man. Jackson Dart to the Steelers and your end? Wow.
See, here's why. Pittsburgh has gone the veteran quarterback route for a long time, and it hasn't really gotten them anywhere over the last couple of years. Ben Roethlisberger's gone, and I don't think they want to keep waiting on Aaron Rodgers to make a decision to come to Pittsburgh. I think Jackson Dart is the smart way to go. Get your offense going. Make DK Metcalf happy, because I don't think Mason Rudolph's your answer this season.
No, Mason Rudolph is not. I think Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to go out on a limb that Aaron Rodgers retires. I just don't see him going to Minnesota or the Pittsburgh Steelers.
At this point, Minnesota and Pittsburgh are holding their breath unnecessarily because they're waiting for Aaron Rodgers to make his next move, and Aaron Rodgers is delaying his next move, and that's not right.
Well, with the 22nd pick in the draft, I mean, the LA Chargers go with a guy from Jim Harbaugh's school that I agree with, Colston Loveland. The reason why I have this is because you want a tight end that's going to catch and that's also going to block. And I think this and Loveland reuniting with his college coach and Jim Harbaugh makes a ton of sense.
So I have the Chargers going defense here. I have them taking Shamar Stewart, edge rusher at Texas A&M. And the reason why I have them going this route is because the Chargers need a defense. They have really no existing defense whatsoever. So I think that they have to start off somewhere. And I know they have Joey Bosa, but add to your strength at pass rush and maybe get a corner or two in the second and third round.
Well, the Green Bay Packers are on the clock next. I think that they need I think they really need to shore up their defense in order for them to compete in that tough NFC North. I have the Green Bay Packers selecting Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M.
Nice. I have the Packers selecting Jahdae Brown, cornerback from Texas. The Packers had no DB action last year, and I know they had Jair Alexander have 8 interceptions, whatever, but I think they need a tandem corner to go alongside him. So I think Jahdae Brown can help.
Definitely can, but you're saying Brown could really help pair with Jair Alexander.
Yes.
And then the Minnesota Vikings are on the clock here. You have two good receivers here, but I think that they're going to bolster their pass rush with this pick. They select Mike Green, an edge rusher from Marshall. The Minnesota Vikings pass rush still has some aging veterans. I think they get younger with this pick.
What? Can you repeat that again?
I have them selecting Mike Green.
Mike Green.
Green.
Gotcha. I have the Minnesota Vikings going offensive tackle. I have them selecting Gray Zabel, offensive tackle out of North Dakota State. The reason why is because the Vikings offensive line, especially with a young quarterback in J.J. McCarthy starting for the first time, I think you need to make sure that you have a good front for your young quarterback. I think receivers are fine. Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, they're going to do their part. Aaron Jones is going to do his part, but you need to keep your young quarterback upright, especially because J.J. McCarthy was banged around in preseason and missed the entire season due to a leg injury.
Well, who's that again?
Gray Zabel, offensive tackle at North Dakota State.
That might be a good pick for the Vikings here. I mean, they get a guy that's going to keep J.J. McCarthy upright and a guy that is going to help McCarthy flourish in his first year of starting.
Uh-huh.
Well, the Houston Texans are on the clock. I mean, you talk about the Ohio State connection that I think that is going to be coming to the city of Houston. The Houston Texans select Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. I mean, the C.J. Stroud connection begins now.
So, C.J. Stroud needs to be kept upright. I know offensive tackle was where you had going. I said Josh Simmons earlier, but I am going to go with an offensive lineman as well. I'm going to say Josh Connerly Jr., offensive tackle out of Oregon, is who the Houston Texans select at pick number 25. Again, same situation. C.J. Stroud was the most hit quarterback in the NFL last year, and that cannot happen for a team that has so much potential in the Houston Texans.
Yeah, I have basically an Ohio State reunion there, and I think that this pick makes a lot of sense for me with Josh Simmons.
I mean, either way, we're both going the same route.
Oh, yeah. And then the Los Angeles Rams are next. I mean, you're also the Los Angeles Rams are going to need to get. They haven't found their next Aaron Donald yet, and they do. And that is they select Walter Nolan, a defensive tackle from Mississippi, Ole Miss.
So I agree with you on the defensive route. They need to find their next Aaron Donald, their next defensive superstar, and I think they get it in Jahad Campbell, linebacker out of your school, Alabama.
Wow, the Rams go a linebacker here. I mean, they have Kobe Turner, who's good, but I just don't think they have enough yet.
Yeah, they need variety on their linebacking core, and I don't think they have it just yet.
Well, the Baltimore Ravens are on the clock here, and I have them going with an offensive lineman at pick 27, and that is Erote Esiri from Minnesota.
I understand. It's a hard one. I have Baltimore going defense. I have them going Donovan Izuruku, edge rusher from Boston College.
And do you like this pick for the Ravens because basically it bolsters their defensive front, knowing that the Ravens, you know what you're going to see from Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and Zay Flowers?
Yeah, I think their offense is set. Their pass rush could use a lot of work. So I think that's why I went with that pick.
Oh, now we are on your pick. Your other team, the Detroit Lions, have the 28th pick. I have them selecting Tyler Booker, an offensive guard from Alabama, a guy that is going to fit a guy that's physical, a guy that's going to open up lanes for Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. I mean, I think this is what Dan Campbell wants here.
I mean, Dan Campbell, I know he loves offensive line. I know he loves to feast up front on both ends, but I am going to say he goes defense here, and I have him going Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon. The reason why is because you don't know how long Aiden Hutchinson's going to be out for it, but he's going to be out for another few weeks. They tried to get him back for the playoffs. He wouldn't be helpful, but imagine pairing a strength with a strength. The Detroit Lions had a phenomenal pass rush last year, even without Aiden Hutchinson for most of the year. I think they add on to it.
Who's that name again?
Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon.
Oh, that would be good for the. Either way, Dan Campbell, I think, is going to feast.
Oh, yeah, and that's what he needs to do.
All right, the Washington Commanders are now on the clock. I really like this pick for them. They get Donovan. Ooh, that's a hard name to say.
Izuruku. That's how I said it.
Donovan Izuruku. I like this pick for them because he's going to be a guy that I think the Washington Commanders are going to build their defense around.
I have been going defense as well, but if you watched the NFC Championship game and if you watched the secondary of the Washington Commanders, you can tell that they absolutely need some help. So I'm going to go with Maxwell Hairston, cornerback out of Kentucky.
Oh, I think they could use that as a secondary piece, but I also think that I'm also thinking in this draft, are the Commanders going to get some offensive pieces to help their young quarterback out?
Yeah, I understand that. But they did get Deebo Samuel in the offseason, so I don't think they really need much more.
No, I just think that I think they are an edge rusher away and a defensive back away from being a complete team.
Well, keep in mind, this isn't a one-round thing. There are multiple rounds that the Commanders have to bolster their offensive and defensive needs.
I still think they need to get an offensive tackle. I still think they could use that.
Yeah.
But all in all, I just think that this Commanders team is going to be really, really, really good this year, this coming season.
Oh, no. I think they overachieved last year, and I think they're going to expand on that.
Well, the Buffalo Bills are on the clock. And knowing that they just got Tre'Davious White, I think that they're going to bolster their secondary too with this pick. They're going to get Nick Emarui from South Carolina Gamecocks.
Some of these names are hard to pronounce. I'm going to say they go secondary as well, but I'm going to say they go Trey Amos, cornerback out of Ole Miss. Again, defensive struggles for Buffalo. Need to improve on that in the worst way, especially if you're facing the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes every year. So I'm again going Trey Amos.
You also think the Buffalo Bills need some receivers too with Josh Allen, or are they fine with receivers and tight ends and running backs?
I think they're okay on that front.
I mean, I think James Cook is going to have another good season. I think you still got Knox and Kincaid that could still help you in the passing game for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, they have two good tight ends. They have a couple good receivers. So I don't think the Bills' offense really needs any help. I think it's their defense that really needs some bolstering.
Well, the Kansas City Chiefs are next. I mean, the team that basically failed to three-peat, but it doesn't mean that their dynasty of championships have concluded.
No.
I'm saying their window has concluded.
No, they're still contenders no matter what. They're still contenders.
So with this pick, I have them going with a secondary, bolstering their secondary, and they get Malaki Starks from Georgia.
So I have the Kansas City Chiefs going offensive tackle, and the reason why I have them going offensive tackle is because if you watched Super Bowl 59, you would see that Patrick Mahomes got banged around a lot by Eagle defensive linemen. So I'm going to have them go offensive line. I'm going to go LoroAntonio'sSportsTalkPodcast, offensive tackle out of Minnesota.
Next up, the Philadelphia Eagles are on the clock here. Although you have Smith and Brown, I also like this guy to pair with them too. The Philadelphia Eagles select with the last pick in the first round, Luther Burden III.
So with this last pick, the Eagles have hit the home run after home run after home run with drafting defensive players. And I think that streak will continue. You lose Josh Sweat, you lose Brandon Graham. I think you got to continue to hit home runs with defense. So I have them going Mike Green, edge rusher out of Marshall.
Oh man, I mean Philadelphia knows how to get younger in that, and I think the Philadelphia Eagles are. I still think the Philadelphia Eagles are gonna. They're probably the clear favorite to win the NFC East again.
They're looking like the clear favorite for sure.
Well, anyways, now we'll kind of talk about our draft recap when that time comes. But let's talk about the NBA playoffs first. I mean, the Lakers. Talk about that Saturday game. It started out well for the Lakers, but things went south for them because defensively they were bad. They basically let the T-Wolves win game one.
I will tell you this. I watched a majority of this game. The first quarter, things were looking good. And then Anthony Edwards just took over from there. And I think Naz Reid and Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo all took over. And I think the main problem with Luka, and I think you're going to want to hear this, I think the main problem with Luka is that even though he's a good defender, he's a ball hog. And why is this a problem?
Whoa. You think he's a ball hog? I've always viewed Luka Doncic as a double-double machine.
Well, see, that's the thing. He's a ball hog. And why I say he's a ball hog, he's not going to let anyone else touch the ball to shoot or score. And when Luka has a phenomenal night, no one else is picking up the slack. Yes, Luka can carry games. He can win games for you. But at the same time, the problem with Luka is when guys like LeBron James and Austin Reeves and other offensive players are not getting the ball, and it's just Luka, and you're so Luka dependent, that is not the best way to function offensively. And Anthony Edwards, we've seen what he could do last postseason, and he picked up right where he left off. And so I think Minnesota stealing game one on the road is huge, but I think the Lakers need to bounce back in game two. If they don't win game two, then I think that they're in for a fight.
You don't want to go down 2-0. I mean, the Lakers, they're lucky to be in the 3 seed, but the only way I see the Minnesota Timberwolves winning this series is if Anthony Edwards continues to go off in games.
And this guy can do everything in the playoffs. It just seems like he plays well amazingly. Like Anthony Edwards is phenomenal on his own, but if for some reason the playoffs just bring out a different side of him that I never thought he had.
Talking about the New York Knicks playing the Detroit Pistons. Knicks took game one, and the Pistons just took game two. That's the series right there in the East.
So far, it seems like the New York Knicks are always going to be the team that people are going to have to look at as a potential upset because the Detroit Pistons are a scrappy team. They were the story of this 2024-25 season, and now they go back to the Caesars Center, tied at 1, and they're going to have a true home crowd at their stadium.
Oh my God, that is going to be something here. Detroit basketball is back.
This is going to be interesting, to say the least.
The Golden State Warriors stole game one on the road in Houston, 95-85. And you know what? I don't have the Warriors winning that series. I still think Houston can still win this series.
I'll tell you what, though. It's something about Steph Curry that just continues to amaze me. I don't know how he makes some of the shots he makes. He's just he's meticulous with the ball. He's just magic. And it's awesome. But the Rockets have to pick up what they saw yesterday and bring it to game two because they cannot let Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler go off like that.
Well, the Miami Heat, they lost by 21 here to the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, do you think the Miami Heat, if they kind of learned the things they were weak on in game one, they can steal game two before heading back to Miami for game three?
I don't think so. I think Cleveland's not playing around this year. I think that Donovan Mitchell is on a mission. I think Evan Mobley, and especially with their new coaching staff, this Cavaliers team is a major upgrade from years past. And I think the Cavaliers win this series in at least 5 games.
The Boston Celtics, I mean,
Eh,
defeating Orlando 103 to 86. Is that a surprise to you about the Boston Celtics right here?
no, not surprised. I kind of expected that. Orlando's a good team, but they're not ready yet.
Well, this is probably a series that's not we're not going to waste our energy with the
No,
Memphis Grizzlies and Oklahoma City Thunder. This is
no,
about they're about to get swept.
they're gonna get swept. They lost by 51 points. The Grizzlies did. They lost by 51 points. Over.
Well, the LA Clippers are up 55-52 over the Denver Nuggets. This is the same thing with the Clippers. They're not a team that goes far in the playoffs, but the Denver Nuggets are also facing a similar situation.
Well, they fired Michael Malone before the playoffs even started, which I thought was a really ridiculous move by the Nuggets. I also want to say that the Clippers should have won game one. They were up by 15 late in the game, and they let Denver hang in there, and they came back and won in overtime. I think this is going to be a really competitive series. I think the Nuggets can pull it off, but I think the Clippers are off to a really good start.
Well, we have some games tomorrow. The Milwaukee Bucks playing the Pacers in game 2. Indiana up 1-0. Do you think the Milwaukee Bucks take this game heading before they head back to Milwaukee?
If Dame Lillard comes back. If Dame Lillard comes back and he's healthy and he's on point, I think the Bucks can take a game on in Indiana, but I think it's gonna be really tough.
Are you saying that because Damian Lillard is hurt right now, or
Yes, he's hurt.
oh, they're gonna need him at some point.
Exactly.
You can't let Giannis do the work here.
No, you need contributors around him.
Well, the Lakers play the Timberwolves tomorrow in game 2. What I want to see from that game tomorrow is I just want to see the Lakers just show improvement. I want to tie the series up. But if we don't, I might have to say we're done.
I'll tell you right now. I think if the Lakers don't win this game and they go down 2-0 going to Minnesota, that spells disaster. Like I said, Luka has to share the ball more because if you're so Luka dependent and guys like LeBron James and Austin Reeves and company are not getting the ball, then Anthony Edwards is going to take over. And I don't think the Lakers want Anthony Edwards to take over games because if you've seen this guy in beast mode in the playoffs, it's deadly facing Anthony Edwards.
Yes, I mean you gotta make sure that you also got to make sure that you don't make Anthony Edwards go off.
Yeah, they got to keep him in check. That's going to be hard to do.
Well, let's talk some baseball here. The New York Yankees just lost the series opener to the Cleveland Guardians 6-4. The Cleveland Guardians just DFA Tristan McKenzie, but Clark Schmidt got the loss. I mean, I'm trying to see how many innings did he go.
Clark Schmidt went 4 innings.
4 innings, 7 strikeouts, but I didn't think that was enough for him today.
Well, he had a bad performance. He gave up 6 runs. Not a really good sign from a guy who's just coming back. The Yankees rotation as a whole is so dependent on Max Fried. It kind of makes me wonder what would have happened if they had Garrett Cole full strength, because the way Max Fried is pitching right now, he's the only rotation. He's the only starter in this rotation that's actually pitching really well. Carlos Carrasco has been up and down. Will Warren's been inconsistent. Carlos Rodon is here and there. Clark Schmidt's here and there. And then, oh God, it's just been very rocky with this rotation. Like I said, other than Max Fried, the rotation's not doing their part. And that's what's frustrating.
What are your thoughts on Ben Rice? He is having a breakout year so far, hitting .288 so far, and a guy that is looking to get some consistent playing time even when Giancarlo Stanton is back.
So let me just say, and I think this is going to be something that might shock you. I think Giancarlo Stanton's Yankee days are numbered.
Oh my God. Wow. Wow, not so fast.
And here's why. Here's why. Because Giancarlo Stanton in the regular season would swing at stupid balls in the dirt. He would make the stupidest swings you can ever imagine. But the reason why we have Giancarlo Stanton is because of his postseason capabilities. But if you look at regular season, Giancarlo Stanton does not play at his highest level in the regular season. Aaron Judge does, but not in the postseason. But again, like when you have a complete team around you that's not heavily dependent on one or two guys, it's great. Paul Goldschmidt's doing well. Ben Rice is hitting. Aaron Judge leading the batting average. So it's like it's a good look for a Yankee team that's trying to be well-rounded on all fronts rather than lean on two or three guys to hit home runs.
I was shocked when you said about John Carlos' days being numbered in pinstripes. I'm like, you know what? He can still contribute. I still like the guy with the Yankees and a guy that is still important to this lineup when he's healthy.
I mean, he's a good postseason hitter. I will give him that. He's a great postseason hitter. But the problem with Giancarlo Stanton is he can't stay healthy, and when he is healthy, he swings at the stupidest pitches.
He does. I mean, I don't know if we talked about this, but the Blue Jay fans can finally dance because Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is now staying as a Blue Jay for life. I kind of knew this was coming.
Yeah, this had to come. I mean, Blue Jay fans were ready to riot on ownership in the Toronto Blue Jays. They were ready to boycott games and not go to them. But the fact that Vlad Guerrero Jr. got the $500 million contract and a $325 million signing bonus, let's not forget that. So I'm happy for Blue Jay fans. I mean, they got their guy long term. My big question is what happens with Bo Bichette?
I think he stays because I kind of think that I think the Blue Jays are a team that needs to win now.
I mean, the Blue Jays have a really talented team, but they also got to realize the baby Blue Jay days are over. Guerrero and Bichette are tenured veterans now. And I think getting Anthony Santander helped them, but they still need to continue to win games and play competitively. And that's what they're doing right now.
Luis Arraez suffered a concussion yesterday. I thought that looked really brutal, but thank God it's not serious.
I mean, thank God. Hope for speedy recovery. I mean, the last thing you want to see anyone get hurt, and Luis Arraez especially. He's one of the better hitters in the game.
He's on the 7-day concussion IL.
Yeah.
And just like in my show league, don't be shocked if Luis Arraez is an all-star starting first baseman.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
Well, another thing we should discuss here is that Ronald Acuna Jr., Brian Snitker, the Braves manager, discussed Ronald Acuna's deleted post. And when he's upon return from the injured list, he is going to be suspended for 3 games.
Wow.
Do you have any thoughts on the Ronald Acuna Jr. situation?
Well, so let me explain the situation. So there was a Braves player, I think in a game or
Jared
two ago.
Kelenic.
Yeah, Kelenic thought he hit a home run, and he started to trot, and then he was thrown out at first after he thought he hit a home run. Ronald Acuna Jr. said on Twitter, if that were me, I'd be taken out of the game. Kelenic was not taken out of the game. So that kind of created a little bit of a dispute there, and Ronald Acuna Jr. did not have any right at all to say what he said. I thought that was completely uncalled for and completely unprofessional on his part. And he's going to pay the price for it. But all I know is when he comes back from his suspension, he better change his attitude.
I'm sure he will. I mean, the Braves need him back in the worst possible way. I mean, the Braves started out slow, but they're getting guys back healthy. They just got Sean Murphy back. And then Spencer Strider had a hamstring injury. Gosh, that guy worked so hard to get back.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Braves were off to a slow start. Thank God they're picking it up, but they also have to stay consistent the rest of the way. They need every player that they need to help them win ball games. And right now they're doing good after a slow start, but they got to put their foot on the gas at some point.
Talk about those Reds here in Baltimore. They one time put up 24 runs, and Ellie De La Cruz may continue to make electrifying plays.
Oh my goodness gracious. First off, the Baltimore Orioles, I don't know what's going on with them. They're starting the season off very, very slow. Um, it's shocking to me because we thought Baltimore was going to be a contender for the AL East, but so far that's not looking like the case. Um, but to me, I think Baltimore, there's a bigger bad sign for Baltimore than it is for Cincinnati. Cincinnati frustrates me because they have their moments where they play like a complete team, and then they have moments where they just lose games because of bad pitching. I want the Reds to make the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to. But this was a good moment for them.
Yes, it was a good moment for them. Like, here's the thing. You and I just jumped the gun on the Reds this season because you and I just got too excited about Terry Francona managing this team.
I mean, listen, they're showing improvement now than they did at this point last year. At this time last year, they were not this good. They have their growing pains, but that's because they have a young, talented roster and a veteran manager.
Yes, I mean, Terry Francona, I think, is the right fit to manage the Reds, than David Bell.
David Bell was not the answer, period.
David Bell, just a guy that kept getting ejected a lot, a guy that just didn't know how to utilize this young talent.
And a guy that had no backbone either.
And the Reds are showing improvement this year, but I just think that they're not there yet.
No, it's going to take some time. If it's not this year, maybe next year.
Yeah, basically, like I said, the Reds in my show league are probably not making the playoffs, and you already know in my show league next year the Dodgers in my show league are going to head to Cincinnati, where it's going to be Ohtani versus Ellie to start on opening day.
Should be an interesting one to watch.
Did you say you were glad that I changed that opening day to Reds Dodgers at the Great American Ballpark?
Yeah, yes, I was, because of the Francona Dave Roberts ties.
Oh yeah, and it's not a 3-game series where they have the Friday game off. It's based. How I set it up was just a 4-game series.
Yeah, that's right.
Was that?
That's right.
Basically, the reason why it's a 4-game series because the Thursday game is where all 30 teams play on opening day.
Yes, that's right.
Because that's how I still set it up that way for all 30 teams to play on opening day.
Gotcha.
But for the Reds here, Ellie, I think that the Reds pitching is young. I mean, Hunter Green has his moments, and why the Cubs are winning now is because I think it's because they have everything going well for them.
Well, the Cubs, like, they could thank getting Kyle Tucker for why they're in first place in the NL Central right now. I mean, no one saw that coming, but Kyle Tucker's been doing well. You got Pierre Carson Armstrong, a PCA.
PCA he's that guy. He is that guy that could hustle in the outfield and make electric plays where everybody is like, whoa, wow, look at that. Or something
PCA is something else in Chicago, but it's good to see the Cubs have a competent baseball team for the first time in a few years. And I think that if they win the division, it'll be a very, very fulfilling moment for the Cubs, who have been looking for some sort of solace after winning the World Series in 2016. They've been looking to get back on track.
They're not like 2016 if you look at it, because they realize the Dodgers and the Phillies are your top 2 teams in that National League.
Well, that Cubs team in 2016, they were just fun to watch. I just remember watching them win that World Series, and I think America was happy for them.
Oh, after not winning because of this famous curse of the Billy Goat.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the 1920s.
Uh-huh.
And then 100 years later, we get to see that World Series.
108 years. It took 108 years for them to win a World Series.
Yeah, you and I weren't even born yet when the Cubs last won the World Series.
I don't think our grandparents were even born.
Oh yes, I mean it was great for the city of Chicago, but I think the Cubs are probably in first. I think in second place would be either Milwaukee or Cincy.
It's looking like Milwaukee. Milwaukee's turning it on as of late. I know they got smoked in the opening day weekend series, but they've really found a way to win baseball games as of late. I think when the Cubs play the Brewers, that's going to be an interesting series.
Oh, yeah. Craig Counsell knows the Brewers well, and he knows Pat Murphy well. So that's going to be an advantage on the Cubs end here.
Should be a fun one.
And then here is a burning question in our baseball segment. Will Ollie Marmol get fired after the season, or will he get fired during the season? I had to bring this up because once upon a time, the St. Louis Cardinals had a 5-0 start to the season that was short-lived.
You know what? Yes, because the St. Louis Cardinals are a laughing stock right now. Everyone looks forward to playing the St. Louis Cardinals on the schedule. They just got swept by the Mets in a 4-game series.
Yes, because they lost. They basically allowed Lindor to hit that walk-off grand salami.
Yeah, and then they tried to come back against the Mets yesterday on Easter Sunday, and they lost again. So, I don't know. The Cardinals are just directionless. They got no.
So they started out 5-0 to start the year. Since then, they're 9-14.
Wow.
What is this?
That's bad.
Everybody's starting to laugh at the Cardinals now.
Well, it's warranted because this team just has no sense of direction, no confidence, nothing. They got no sugarcoat.
The Braves are 9-13. The Marlins are 10-12. I have a feeling that the Miami Marlins are gonna fall down.
They should. Miami's another team that's just like got nothing going for them, really. Nothing to be optimistic about.
No, there's nothing to be optimistic about with the Miami Marlins. But the Minnesota Twins, here's another question here. They're 7-15 right now. This is a team that has a very talented roster. Is Rocco Baldelli on the hot seat?
Yes, because this is the same team that just missed out on a playoff spot that collapsed late in the year last year and missed out on the playoffs entirely and allowed the Detroit Tigers to get in. So I think Rocco Baldelli is, I'm not going to say he's going to get fired, but he's definitely on the hot seat for me.
Look at the AL Central standings right now. The Detroit Tigers are in first place. The Cleveland Guardians are 13-9. The Kansas City Royals, this is not a bad 9-14 start. They're struggling to start the year, but I have a feeling the Royals will pick things up.
I mean, Detroit in first place, we kind of knew that the Tigers were going to do well, not this well to start the year. That's a really big surprise, but good for them because that team's been waiting to come back from the dead for years.
And then the Guardians. I mean, what's to say about the Cleveland Guardians?
The Guardians are a good team. They have a good manager. I like Stephen Vogt. Stephen Vogt's a great manager. I think losing Josh Naylor stunk for them, but I think they're going to be okay. I think they're going to be a playoff bound team. I think it's just a matter of whether or not this team can sustain success for the rest of the year.
Do you think the Kansas City Royals are going to pick things up because they're 9-14 right now? They're 2-8 in their last 10 games. I'm not saying the Royals are taking a step backward.
I'm not counting them out just yet. They got a really well-rounded roster and a really good manager. I'm not counting the Royals out just yet.
Oh, Matt Quatraro, I think has done a great job there. And I love Bobby Witt Jr. I mean,
he's one of the
faces in Kansas City beside Patrick Mahomes. It's Bobby Witt Jr.
It's funny you mentioned Mahomes because Mahomes owns part of the Royals stock.
Yeah, and I like what JJ Porcolo is doing in Kansas City. I think he's done a great job utilizing this roster and helping the Royals get back to rebuilding. Because the Hosmer days they were bad because their management wasn't good then. But JJ Porcolo has done a remarkable job with the Royals.
Like I said, you got to give props to this Royals team for rebuilding, for drafting well, for making the right moves in free agency. And here they are right now. I know they're 9-14, but there's still plenty of time. There's still 140 games left. And I think that they'll pick it up like in the summer months.
You think the Twins are a disappointment because they're still not over their collapse from last year?
Yeah, they're still in a little bit of a rut from last year, and it's carried over into this year. And it's disappointing because the Twins have a lot of talent, as mentioned before.
Do you think Carlos Correa gets traded at the deadline? Because he's one of the names that was surfaced as trade deadline candidates.
It's possible. I think that Carlos Correa, I mean, the Twins, if they're not going anywhere, he's going to go somewhere. I don't know where exactly. I'm not sure if the Mets want him anymore because he
No,
was
I
supposed.
don't think anybody wants to trade for him. I think Carlos Correa ends up staying put in Minnesota.
Yeah, the thing is, like, Correa has a lot of value, and I don't know if anyone wants to trade for that kind of value.
Well, the Seattle Mariners are 12-10. We both said last year this was the worst offensive team in baseball. Do you think their offense has been better this year and much improved?
Better offensively. I think last year was devastating because they had the best pitching staff in the game, but the worst offense in the game. And that's not a good combination to have. So I think
Like, are you
Seattle.
saying that because they're starting to utilize like Randy Arozarena in the lineup? They're starting to Julio Rodriguez is getting off to a better start.
Well, another part of it is the fact that Cal Raleigh is starting to hit too. Cal
Oh, I
Raleigh,
like Cal Raleigh.
Cal Raleigh's starting to hit as well. Like that's a guy that we didn't expect to come out of the woodwork, but he's hit. He's tied for the league leading home runs this point in the year, and I think that that's a big jolt that the Mariners would love.
Houston Astros are 11-11. Is that a team that's still a playoff team to you?
Later in the year, yes, they will be.
Oh, they'll they're not a good team right now. I mean, the Oakland A's, everybody thought that they would. The A's, sorry, I said Oakland.
It's fine. It's fine.
The Sacramento A's, everybody thought that they would be a team that loses 100 games now, but I'm surprised that they're 10-12 and they're competing.
They're competing, and also one of their players is leading the league in home runs. I'm talking about Tyler Soderstrom, who has 9 home runs on the year. He's tied with Cal Raleigh for most in Major League Baseball. And Tyler Soderstrom is a guy that we didn't expect to come out.
What's laughable is that the A's beat up on the White Sox.
Well, that's a disaster in its own right.
You mean the White Sox are now the team that everybody predicts that they'll lose 100 games? Are the White Sox going to break their own losing record?
For their sake and their fans, I hope not. That'd be a disaster.
Because of how bad the organization is. And do you really think Jerry Reinsdorf is still good for the White Sox or bad for the White Sox?
Jerry Reinsdorf is horrible for the White Sox health.
Why?
Because the guy just does not know how to put together a baseball team.
No, he's known to put together a basketball team with the Bulls.
Well, he should focus more on basketball and get out of baseball.
Now, the White Sox are kind of their own story, you know. I think nobody wanted that job to begin with when it came to that managerial opening.
No, nobody wanted it. Absolutely nobody in Major League Baseball wanted that job.
I feel terrible for Will Venable. He is in a worse situation, and he has a 5-17 team after he got water poured on it after the White Sox beat the Angels.
It's just a disaster in Chicago, in Southside Chicago. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody wants to go to their games.
Well, them and the Rockies. That is also another story.
Do you think Bud Black gets fired after the season?
Mercifully, yes.
And what do you think he's been a puppet to the Rockies front office?
Honestly, yes, because I don't know how this guy's lasted this long. I really don't know how he's lasted this long.
About to be his 10th year, because when he first started, he guided the Colorado Rockies into the playoffs. But by looking at the Rockies, they're basically stuck in rock bottom for a long time.
They are. And by record, they're the worst team in baseball. They're 4-17.
They're stuck because Arizona's good, San Francisco's good, the Padres are good. They're looking up at those dogs in the NL West.
Yeah, this team has between the Rockies and the White Sox, I don't know who's worse.
For me, it's the White Sox.
For me, it's the White Sox too, because that's a crippled franchise.
Like in my show league, the Dodgers took 2 out of 3 from them. It didn't matter if they lost game 1 of that series to Chicago.
It didn't. It really didn't, because the White Sox are going to White Sox. That's what they do. They are horrible.
Yeah, I feel like in the question, there's a question. I mean, Luis Robert Jr. has been linked to the Dodgers. Do you think for in real life the Dodgers end up pulling the trigger on Luis Robert, or do they say no? I don't want to do business with you, Chicago White Sox.
Well, the White Sox were able to do business to get Garrett Crochet off their hands, and he went to the Red Sox, and he's been doing okay. So, to me, if the Red Sox want, if the Dodgers want depth, then I would bring in Luis Robert. If you don't want depth and you're cool with what you have, and you don't want to pull the trigger on anything, then stay away from Luis Robert.
I think the Dodgers need to stay away from Luis Robert because I feel like the White Sox are going to ask for so much prospects in return that the Dodgers don't want to do.
And I think that's obviously, and like, you got to be smart. That's what the Dodgers have to do. They got to be smart. All right, we just came off a World Series win. We got all these guys with deferrals. Our roster is stacked. Do we really want to add more to it?
Or, hey, the White Sox might not pick up Roberts' contract options after this season, meaning that the Dodgers could show interest in Robert as a free agent.
Yeah, if they want to wait till free agency to scoop him up, then you can do that. Be smart about this.
I think the Dodgers will be smart about this. I don't think they're going to be stupid to do something like that.
Yeah, like it serves no purpose to pick up a guy who's on the last year of his contract with a horrible team.
And he has 2 club years on his contract left.
Yes.
That the White Sox could pick up or could not pick up.
It depends on what the White Sox decide to do, but I don't have any confidence that they're going to do anything right.
They're not going to. I don't think the White Sox are going to be. I don't think they're going to be sellers at the deadline.
No, they're not. Because they got nothing to sell.
No, I feel terrible for Will Venable. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a good manager on a young team like this. But I'm sorry, you're stuck.
Your ball club stinks.
Yeah, I mean, they hired him just like who was worse was Pedro Grifol.
Yeah.
And then Grady Sizemore came in and he did a great job in the games he took over for Pedro Grifol.
Yeah, the White Sox are in a long standstill right now. They got nothing going.
Do you think the Rays are a good last place team in that division because your division is top heavy?
Yeah. No, Tampa's good. I mean, people are mistaking them for being a bad team, but you know what? They did give the Yankees a run for their money in that 3-game set over the weekend. I mean, they can surprise you. They're just in a very tough division. That's what
they can be good, but they're just not relevant.
They're not relevant in a very strong division.
Well, next up here, we are going to discuss is the next thing we're going to discuss here is some March Madness championships here. Gino Auriemma guided UConn women's Huskies to another national title, and Florida did the unthinkable here.
Well, I want to start off with Gino Auriemma and UConn because I know that was one of your team, but I think the best thing that came out of that women's championship was seeing that image of Paige Beckers and Gino Auriemma hugging, and you see tears coming out of Paige Beckers' eyes because she was the number 1 pick by the Dallas Wings in the WNBA, and for Gino Auriemma to win a 12th national title, I think that's just incredible. In 30-something years, he has 12 national titles. That's just something that I never thought would be possible. But the only thing that's on my mind for the women's side is that how much more does Gino Auriemma have left in the tank to coach? Because the guy's 71 years old. He's going to be approaching retirement age soon. So you only wonder how much longer this guy has left and if he's going to start grooming a successor.
Yeah, I think he might be grooming a successor at some point. And for the men's here, what were your thoughts on Florida winning it all?
Well, Houston ruined it. They were up by 12 late in the game, in the national championship game, and Florida just came back and won. I got to give credit to the Gators, though. They hung in tough. They were one of the more sneaky good teams in this tournament for a 1 seed, and I think that they proved that they got a future going for them because their coach that they've had is 30-something years old, and he's very young. Jack Golden. Jack Golden has proven that he's a very young and up-and-coming coach, and having a national title under your belt is pretty sweet.
Anyways, Matt, with that being said here, that's going to do it for Talking Sports. We'll do a draft recap sometime next month.
Sounds good. Take care, everybody.